What you're essentially saying is, if you don't want the police to kill you, then tell your entire race to stop committing crime. Which I guess I'll try to bring that up at the next National Black People meeting. The show is literally called Pseudo-Intellectual, so at least she's self-aware that she's not a real intellectual. Hi, I'm Ranting Minority. Welcome back to my channel where I do social and political commentary. Today's video is a touchy subject. Don't know how I'm going to cover this. I need a moment. Today we're talking about the catastrophic, world-threatening, widespread problem of black-on-black crime. Yeah, no, we're going to be debunking some dumbass video by Chen. That video being, is black-on-black crime a myth? There's so much wrong with the term black-on-black crime in general. This video goes far beyond that, but I'm not really surprised with the information in this video or the lack of information in this video. It's a Chen video. If you don't know, Chen is honestly not that impressive. She's just your average conservative talking head, really. There's nothing interesting or special about her except her ability to completely miss the point or her IQ of -4. Which credit where credit is due, her show is literally called Pseudo-Intellectual, so at least she's self-aware that she's not a real intellectual. The video was just 10 minutes of concern trolling about black-on-black crime, and of course, out of context FBI statistics. You don't know one. We all know the one. We're going to be responding and debunking to it today because it's literally too easy not to. But before that, we need to address the elephant in the room. You're holding me back. You, person watching this video who has not subscribed yet. You see how close I am to 1,000 subscribers, yet you've chosen not to subscribe. Quite frankly, I'm hurt. We are more than halfway on the road to 1K. Bars. The quicker that happens, the quicker I can quit my day job. I'm kidding, but you know I'm not. Don't hold me back. Subscribe, like, share. Only you can help me reach 1K. And as always, there's going to be a source list in the description below this video, and also ways to support my channel. All money given to me will be put into this channel to get things such as a new camera, new lighting, better editing software, etc., so I can bring you, my subscribers, or you, person who has not subscribed, who should have subscribed by now, better quality content, because that's what you deserve. Link in the description. Make sure you stay to the end of this video for a special announcement, and with that being said, let's get into this.
To us from none other than my favorite, Teen Vogue. And this article I thought was interesting, and I wanted to go through it together because I think it encapsulates a lot of the arguments we see all the time from the progressive left. For background, this article does come to us at a time when, for the past few months now, there's been this whole conversation around BLM and specifically police brutality against Black Americans. A lot of people, mostly on the right if we're being honest, do like to bring up the fact that, hang on, if Black lives do matter, which of course they do, then why don't we spend more time talking about black-on-black crime? So if you ask me, talking about black-on-black crime, it's not a negation of Black Lives Matter. It's actually an affirmation.
Sure. So sure you say that because you care. My first issue with all this talk about black-on-black crime is the term itself already links race to crime. It's always used as a rebuttal to police brutality. It's basically insinuating that crime justifies poor police treatment, not on an individual or local basis. Even though an amount of crime in the area doesn't seem to have much to do with how police treat you, people still bring these type of things up. And
wondering why we don't spend more time talking about those Black lives that maybe aren't as politically convenient to.
You say that as if black-on-black crime hasn't been a popular right-wing talking point since the 1960s. And black-on-black crime isn't normally broadcast on news stations. Black crime in the media is basically overrepresented. So to say no one's talking about it is just kind of dead-ass wrong. If anything, it's being talked about too much.
Some people. But this article starts off by saying, Black Lives Matter is an affirmation in a world that has made it abundantly clear that to many, Black lives don't matter. The movement represents a generation of Black people who are taking the metaphoric baton from ancestors who were enslaved, tortured, and killed for merely existing in the bodies in which they were born. I don't know about you folks, but I am so tired at this point of this incessant need to focus on certain past grievances to the exclusion of others. Yes, of course, slavery was terrible. A lot of the practices that even happened after slavery to Black people were terrible.
Now remember that part. Be clear, you just heard her say she's basically upset that people talk about slavery and things to justify how things are going right now. I need you to remember that for later. It's a special tool.
It's very politically motivated. I don't feel sympathy for these people who try to use wrongs that didn't happen to them in order to paint themselves as victims.
They love that word. Everyone who talks about the past is a victim. Everyone who talks about how the past affects the present is a victim. Imagine someone cuts off your fucking arm and then you get told to go play basketball, and when you say, I can't, some douchey conservative just walks up and is like, have you tried not being a fucking victim? I'm going to just try to say this as simply as possible in case you ever see this, Lauren. She's probably never going to see this. People talk about the past because the past usually has a lot to do with things in the present. Whereas people literally think all racism ended after Jim Crow.
This writer continues, the Mapping Police Violence Project has found that black people are currently more than 3 times as likely as white people to be killed by law enforcement. I will reiterate, any loss of life for whatever reason, it's all terrible. I would love to live in a world where none of this stuff happened. Unfortunately, that's just not realistic. What these people never or almost never mention when they talk about the fact that more black people are killed by police than white people is the fact that, and this is just what the data tells us, black people do proportionately commit more crimes than white people.
Black people are more likely to be arrested for crime. Arrested.
Per year, and are therefore more likely to interact with police than white people. That's an uncomfortable statistic, but I mean, frankly, it's just true, and I don't know how we can continue this conversation around policing without talking about these stats. It's just not realistic.
But here's a hot take. If you commit a crime, I don't think you should be murdered in the streets. See, she brushes off the fact black people are more likely to be killed by police by saying black people commit more crime, or black people are arrested for more crime, rather. But she leaves out the likelihood of a black person being falsely convicted of a crime or a black person being arrested falsely, which happens more than it should, to say the least. The issue of increased police presence doesn't really help this, and in fact, it may make it worse. Also, more police presence means they're going to catch more crimes, which means the crime rate is actually going to increase when you have more police presence, because there's more crime being reported because there's more people seeing it. Talking about police killings, we're usually upset that they get away with it. A black person kills another black person, they usually go to jail. A police officer kills a black person, they may get paid time off. What you're essentially saying is, if you don't want the police to kill you, then tell your entire race to stop committing crime. Which I guess I'll try to bring that up at the next National Black People meeting. She says we have to talk about this too when talking about policing or whatever, but she offers no criticism of policing at all in this video. We're going to talk about crime within a certain racial group, and not also look at how policing practices can and have led to increased crime, and how past racist policies of America still affect these communities today. And you're only leaving room to assume that this crime problem is linked to their race.
All right, so let's continue with this headache of an article. It says, in response to this rallying cry for respect and justice, some have tried to discredit the movement, simultaneously placing blame on black victims with a phrase that has been used by white supremacists for years: black on black crime. All right, so I mean, I'm sure some white supremacists out there do talk a lot about black on black crime, but
so you admit it's a dog whistle.
Black on black crime, just as a generic issue, is not solely used by white supremacists, right? There are people who talk about criminal justice and just stats in general that do mention black on black crime, because black on black crime, believe it or not, is a significant portion of all violent crime that happens in the United States.
Okay, if they do, which I doubt they do, they don't frame it as race being the biggest factor in why there's crime in these neighborhoods.
Because black on black crime, believe it or not, is a significant portion of all violent crime that happens in the United States. And actually, there is this kind of viral graph that's been going around on social media that shows the murder of blacks and whites in the US. This is circa 2013, so it's not the most recent data. It has on the graph the number of black people killed by white people. Pretty small number, and this is per 1 million members of the murderer's race. It's 0.77. And it shows that apparently this is what Black Lives Matter is protesting. And then next to it, on the far right side of the graph, there is a much bigger, much scarier looking bar, 53.94, which is the number of black people killed by other black people.
Notice how it's all about how you shouldn't use the term black on black crime. And now her video is turned into comparing black crime rates to white crime rates and black murder to white murder. She pulls up a stat where it looks like white people killing black people is actually not a big deal, but black people killing white people is a big deal. You know, really funny, I found an article that replies to this exact chart she's using. So let's read that, shall we? Now, this is from an actual statistician. These numbers are presented side by side to make them seem like they're directly comparable, but they're really not. Because the graph labels whites killed by blacks as 9.83 per million black Americans and whites killed by whites as 10.22 per million, it gives the impression that white people are killed by white and black people at about the same rate, which is definitely not the case when you standardize per capita. So Mitch, who is a statistician, suggested to look at the per capita murder rates and then compare the likelihood someone of the same race or a different race. So if you were a white person in 2013, based on the FBI data, your chances of being killed by anyone are roughly 13 in a million. If you're a black person in 2013, your chances of being killed by anyone were 62 in a million, which is almost 5 times that of a white person. White person in 2013, Nuzzle explained that your chances of being murdered by another white person are approximately 11 in a million, and your chances of being murdered by a black person are 2 in a million. Meaning if you're a black person in 2013, your chances of being murdered by another black person are 56 in a million, and your chances of being murdered by a white person are 5 in a million. So, in short, her misrepresentation of the data doesn't support her implication that black on white murder is more likely.
I don't have a problem with focusing on people who are killed by the police, whether that's wrongful or not.
Then why are you making this video?
But there's pretty much silence when black people kill other black people, even though it happens so much more often according to the numbers.
Silence from who? The entire black community? Did you survey us? Did I miss that?
That's not white supremacy. That's just critical thinking, if you ask me.
There is no critical thinking going on in this video. You're literally using a 4chan chart.
Let's continue though. It says, a report released by the U.S. Department of Justice in 2017 found that of all the violent crimes committed between 2012 and 2015, 22.7% were committed by black people and 63% of those were committed against other black people. This in comparison to 44% of all violent crimes committed by white people, 57% of which were committed against other white people. So she says, according to this data, white people commit crimes against other white people at about the same rate that black people do against other black people. But despite these numbers, people aren't discussing the hashtag or quote, white on white crime problem. So this is kind of disingenuous for several reasons, and I'm not sure if she just doesn't understand how to read statistics.
She says after assuming her last stat proved that black on white murder is more likely.
Usually when we talk about Black Lives Matter or black on black crime, we're talking about homicide specifically. 22.7% of violent crimes were committed by black people. Black people, I think, make up around 13% of the US population, maybe up to 15%.
Don't pretend you don't know the statistic.
Regardless of how you look at it, that is still being overrepresented in crime statistics, right? From that, her point here is that, so black on black crime happens when black people commit crimes about as often as white on white crime happens when white people commit crimes, right? And it is true that across all races, people generally commit crimes against people of the same race.
Your acknowledgement that people commit more crimes towards people of their own race kind of makes your entire defense of black on black crime seem redundant.
And I think a lot of that has to do with socioeconomic factors. Just
socioeconomics, you say? Remember earlier when she said she didn't want past grievances to be reasons for people to complain about things now? That we shouldn't talk about slavery because victim mentality or whatever. I guess slavery and systemic racism and Jim Crow weren't socioeconomic factors that still have effects on us today.
The fact that in the US, a lot of neighborhoods are racially segregated.
I wonder why these places are racially segregated. Could it be because of redlining, blockbusting, and poverty created from past policies? Nope, it's rap music.
Right, so she's saying everyone commits crimes more likely against people of their own race. It's not something that just black people do.
Yes, that's literally true. Instead of acknowledging that, she brings up more FBI statistics because relevance.
In response to that, I have this lovely graph from the FBI. And by the way, the FBI website is trash. Like, they need to get a new webmaster or something because it looks like garbage. But here we have murders, right? And specifically murders, right? Because again, she's talking about all violent crime. When we talk about Black Lives Matter, we usually talk about murder. So why she's bringing things like assault and robbery, I'm not sure. But here we can see, this is from 2018. If we look at the race of murder offenders, 4,884 offenders were white, 312 were other, some other racial group.
Okay, again, black Americans are way more likely to be falsely convicted of a crime. Notice how all we want is people to stop using the term black on black crime, and now it's turned into a who commits the more murder game. Also, notice she didn't show you the victims of these murders. That's very purposeful, you see. She didn't show you the victims of these crimes because it would have shown you that the victims of most of those white crimes were white people themselves, because again, you're more likely to commit crimes against someone of your own race. That's literally true across the board. Black people and white people kill each other about the same rate. However, she's not going to tell you that because to acknowledge that would undermine most of her points.
For African American, 6,318. So of the murderers that we have caught, and I've assumed like that have gone to trial and things, most of them are African American, right? So we're talking about 13% of the population responsible for over half, from what we know, of the murders that are happening. Right?
See, I told you she knew it. Here, the conversation is shifted into the right's favorite statistic to demonize black people. A few things about 1350. I want to make a video about that eventually, but I don't have time for now. But we're just gonna do a quick little breakdown of why this stat is shit. 1, reporting is voluntary, meaning all police precincts are not required to report all crimes. Most crimes go unreported in the US. 2, black Americans are far more likely to be falsely convicted and arrested. 3, a large percentage of this is gang violence, and believe it or not all black men are in gangs, not even most. Except me, I'm in Antifa. That joke's gonna go over a lot of people's heads, but that's okay.
You know, white people, black people, we commit crimes at the same rate. That's not true. So when people talk about what about black on black crimes, they are trying to bring up the majority of crimes that happen. And what is tragic and what I think should, you know, really affect BLM supporters if they do think that Black Lives Matter is just noting that most of these victims are themselves black. So there's this huge loss of life that's happening in the black community. And we don't talk about it.
You do. Y'all literally talk about it every time a black person is killed by police.
This next part is something that I do agree with the writer with, which is surprising, but she says, additionally, poor black people and poor white people were found to commit violent crimes at similar rates, 46.4% for white people and 43.4% for black people. With the clear connection between poverty and crime rates, and the fact that the poverty rate for black Americans is more than twice the poverty rate for white Americans, it's obvious that anyone who truly cares about lowering the crime rate in the US would spend their time and resources working to eradicate poverty. I completely agree with basically everything said in that paragraph. I do, like, and that's just a fact that there is a link between violent crime and poverty. And in so many different black communities, that is one of the factors that you see influencing violent crime. So there's more stuff at work here than just race.
So you acknowledge poverty is a factor, but you don't want to acknowledge a large reason for that poverty is past grievances, you say. How did this poverty start, Lauren? How did this poverty happen? Could it be the past grievances?
The fact that we know eradicating poverty reduces violent crime, we see that even when Donald Trump manages to accomplish the lowest black unemployment rate, I mean, almost on record, and achieves record high black entrepreneurship, i.e. actually helping black people to succeed, helping black people to live in an environment where they can kind of pursue whatever career ambitions they want, he still gets slammed as a white supremacist.
So conservatives love to talk about unemployment, but they never talk about underemployment. See, underemployment is the underuse of a worker because a job does not use that worker's skills, is part-time, or leaves the worker idle. Examples can include holding a part-time job but desiring full-time work, or overqualification in which the employee has education or experience or skills beyond the requirement of the job. So having a job does not mean you're financially stable. Believe me, I would know. Nor should you assume that decrease in unemployment is because of Trump when it was falling way before he took office. What? The poverty level isn't falling. People are still poor. Black Americans are still more poor than white Americans. Black Americans are still more likely to be in poverty. And when they're employed, black workers with a college or advanced degree are more likely than their white counterparts to be underemployed. Almost 40% are at a job that typically does not require a college degree, compared with 31% of white college grads. Looking at the poverty rate would be a better argument, but it wouldn't support her still, so I guess that's why she used unemployment.
What's the solution here? I don't even know anymore. But she then writes, we also know about the violence within our communities. If people who invoke the phrase black on black crime in response to the BLM movement paid any attention to black people and their communities, they'd know black people care about that too and talk about it a lot. It doesn't seem like it. Honestly, it really doesn't seem like a lot of attention at all, either locally or nationally.
Lauren Chen, longtime friend of the hood in the black community. Tons of black friends, I'm sure. Says she doesn't see concern of a black crime or black murders. Do you think every black person knows of every murder that happens on the street? Say that tells me that you either don't know many black people or you're just plain fucking lying. You can't expect people to keep up with every murder and be outraged the same when the consequences for those murders are different. And when we go to jail, we kill people. When we kill people, we go to jail. Alright, so I can't take any more of that. But black people committing crimes against other black people is not a myth. No, but calling it black on black crime when literally every race is more likely to attack people of their own race And only bringing it up when people bring up black people being killed by police is, dare I say, kinda racist, so maybe don't use that term. Try again, Lauren, because I am not impressed. We are at almost 1,000 subscribers. Thank you. It's been a long ride. Happy to be here. With that being said, once I hit 1,000 subscribers, I do want to start live streaming. So if you want to see live streams, leave a comment, let me know. I'm filling out my audience right now. And these live streams will mostly be weekly, but again, we're waiting until I hit 1K, but I can't get the 1K without your help. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Thank you guys so much for your support, and may your vibes be chill.